Hey guys, so welcome to the penultimate finale of my Beyonce trilogy Project Theory. Now this episode is Act 3, which is titled The Black Betty Tour, as well as My Rock House. I believe that the Act 3 is going to have a 3-titled name, as well as I think the compass of the tour design is going to be this geometric cube, which will be the centerpiece of the entire track of the trilogy. It's probably gonna be like a representation of a hexagon or some sort of a beehive, similar to Cowboy Carter, but I think much bigger. I believe that Beyonce is gonna do something that is so spectacular that it's gonna change the way we see visuals, as we saw from Cowboy Carter and now to the closing of Cowboy Carter, and now moving forward to Act 3 and what Act 3 is going to represent. Now that Cowboy Carter has officially closed its gates, we could officially say that Beyonce became the most successful country artist with the highest grossing tour. I think I repeated that in the previous episode, but I'm here to resonate this back to you guys. As Cowboy Carter closed, it turns golden, indicating we close the golden phase of the Renaissance. Now we are moving towards the rebellion. I think Act 3 is going to be something that ties back since 2016. Now I've been seeing a lot of gold ensembles, and I think that if we look back in 2016 and how Beyonce was dressed almost as if this military Malcolm X, but it was very Michael Jackson inspired, I also believe that Beyonce might bring that style back for Act 3. It might be a black and gold cover, who knows, but definitely this house has a lot to do with the closing of Amen and the opening of Act 3. And I think the message of Act 3, I don't think it just started with the country album, which Beyonce stated that never fight or never ask permission for something that already belongs to you. I don't think she's just talking about this for Act 2. I think she's gonna talk about this for even Act 3, and I think each message of each album was a message. For Renaissance, it was to be free, to be liberated, to not feel judged. Act 2 was to never ask permission for what already belongs to you. And in Act 3, I believe that is to fight for what you believe in, no matter what the cost. Having Renaissance being the first act and how it reflects back into the third act in some capacity, I think the background as well as the ensemble is going to change colors, and it will match with the black and red, indicating we are stepping into the rock phase, but also soul and funk and blues. I think the combination of these different things are going to make this album very different from anything else we have seen. And also Beyonce is playing into this Matrix-like thing. The blue pill or the red pill? That was the question in the Matrix. Whichever path we choose after knowing what Cowboy Carter was and what Renaissance gave us, now we must choose those two paths in order to enter the door of Act 3. I believe Act 3 is going to be so high much energy that I think this is going to take a couple of while for Beyonce to actually execute, because I think she has a lot of different promotions that she's going to do. I think before she even released Act 3, she might make a collaboration with Jay-Z. By seeing Jay-Z for a couple of weeks and months of different cities and different places such as London, Paris, I think Atlanta, and now Vegas, I think that Jay-Z is now going to be stepping up, and you might even see Jay-Z add blue in one of his album that he might release. And we know that Beyonce's been hinting different segments of rock. There's a part where she dressed as Palm Anderson, and she had the all black on with the bleached blonde hair, and she had this Charlie's Angel, as well as Cardi B copied the same, like I would say, inspiration. Like I said, this tour, this experience of the Black Betty tour, is gonna be something that celebrate all past legends. I remember in one of her British Vogue interviews back in 2021, Beyonce hint that she is trying to do something that basically celebrates past and future legends, and to basically open the eyes of new generation to these artists, because those artists were her backbone or even her teachers. Now, with Act 1 closing out with Renaissance and Act 2 officially close out, we are officially seeing the completion of the horse. The only thing that is missing is the last horse, which will be the Black Betty horse. I think this horse has a connection to Sir Davis, which is the whiskey brand, and I think we're gonna get another version of the whiskey brand. Now, the connection between these two things might be the bigger ensemble that connects these different acts together. And also, Beyonce has referenced a lot of legends that she's gonna be using for Act 3 and throughout her Cowboy Carter tour. So in a way, you could basically explain that each act basically exposed the next one. And with Act 3 being the final conclusion before really seeing what the visuals are gonna be like after Act 3. So when you think about it, Beyonce might create a bigger catalog when she releases Act 3, and the tour might be a bit longer depending on how many nights she's gonna do. With Renaissance, she did 52 shows or 56 shows. With Cowboy Carter, she did 32 shows. It was surrounding the history of America, as well as the influence of different black people in those different spaces. With the Black Betty tour and the unnamed album, which I'm titling it the Rock House album, I think this act is gonna have a 3-name title, but at the same time the stage is gonna be set up as like a beehive stage, and I think the connection between the beehive stage is the Renaissance, because Pure Honey, Sweet Honey Bucket, these two songs are definitely the amalgamation of what a hive looked like. And I think it would have made perfect sense that the last stage is a representation what the Renaissance stage should have been, and that Renaissance stage should have been like this cunty honey hive space, and I think she's gonna use that for Act 3. Now, we know that the Cowboy Carter stage was a representation of a guitar, and I think Beyonce is gonna combine these two stages to form the third act. It might be a hexagon, which could give you a geometric pattern of a square, which is looking at it from a 3-dimensional point. But also what calls out more rock is when she received the Innovation Award, she had this Michael Jackson-esque Versace clothes that she wore to receive the Michael Jackson, not the Michael Jackson, the Innovation Award, when she brought out Stevie Wonder. And even flash forward that, a lot of people started thinking, okay, if she brought out Destiny's Child for Las Vegas for the final show, where was Lady Gaga in all of this? And mind you, the start of the year, Lady Gaga and Beyonce was sitting right across from each other when Usher was performing his Super Bowl. And then that was the same night when Beyonce released Act 2. So the same place where Beyonce saw the Super Bowl when Usher was performing is the same space that she basically ended her Cowboy Carter. So I think that space has a very significant space. So you might see that Beyonce might go to the town of where rock started, and she might kick off from there. Like I said, the Black Betty tour is sold out. She's basically predicting that the Black Betty tour is going to be the name of the next tour. And then I think the name of the entire project might definitely be something that would be a 3-single release. So Cowboy Carter was a 2 singles release, Renaissance was 1 release, and then I think the theory, a lot of fans are suggesting that yes, it's gonna be a dominant rock album, but it's gonna have funk, soul, and blues influence. I might even throw in jazz in there, because I definitely see Beyonce might put in jazz into it. So people that she's very inspired for this next album is that Beyonce is going to be inspired by Muddy Waters sample, by Louisiana Blues. So she's being inspired by ancient legends that redefine what rock and blues were. So we got a little taste of that from Cowboy Carter. Another person that Beyonce cherished the most, which is Miss Tina Turner, I definitely see her covering the Rock Baby Me album from Tina Turner. I think that she's definitely gonna cover some of her samples, and there's also some my opinions that Beyonce might definitely cover Chuck Berry. We saw that Beyonce was referencing these artists and her visuals for Cowboy Carter. She also talked about Chuck Berry and the Route 66 and You Can't Never Tell. So there's a lot of songs that I think she's gonna be covering. Definitely we saw Little Richard on there when she was performing some of her interludes. Long Tall Sally, there's one of the characters that look like they have braces, and I think she's referencing Long Tall Sally, and I think Beyonce's gonna create these characters based on the samples of each of those legends. Lastly but not least, we have a couple of more people. For one, I definitely see her bringing the magic gun as well as the guitar, which I think if Beyonce ever did a Prince song, which Let's Go Crazy and Purple Rain, if Beyonce ever redo the rendition of that, that's gonna set the tone for rock, like I'm telling you guys. And another personal favorite, if she ever covers Michael Jackson, there's 2 songs that I think she could definitely do. For one, she could definitely do anything from the Bad album, and she's been referencing a lot of edgy black and latex, so I definitely see her covering that. Dirty Diana, I've been telling this, if Beyonce ever covered Dirty Diana, I'ma lose my mind, and I think she has the vocal pipes to do that. And not least, we also have the Jimi Hendrix, the Voodoo Child, and she's been hinting and Jolene, she's a Creole banji bitch, indicating that she's definitely gonna, if you know about the culture of New Orleans and Louisiana as well as Haiti and African, the voodoo culture, I think Beyonce's gonna pull the amalgamation of all of these things to make the rock album. I think the rock album is gonna have a dark tone to it, and the songs are gonna be more sincere as well as very edgy, just like Don't Hurt Yourself. Mind you, she didn't do none of these songs when she was doing for the Cowboy Carter, like Sorry, Don't Hurt Yourself, 6-Inch Heels. These are songs I think she's definitely gonna put as part of the album. And as always, like I mentioned, if you look at the Renaissance stage, we know that the stage was a representation of a banjo, and the banjo started off in Africa, and how she is definitely predicting the different stages and the different acts based on these things. Like I said, there's 2 videos that I covered before, and if you're interested in that, you guys could also check that out before covering the final video. So if you look at the Renaissance stage, like I mentioned before, it is very luminous. It almost looked like a crying river banjo, and the opening set of the gate, which is like a sunset, indicating that there's this labor of love that is happening on the stage. And we could definitely feel that when she was performing at the Renaissance tour. She was dancing more, there was not that much singing, and then she kind of like reversed that. That's why a lot of people been saying that Cowboy Carter and Renaissance are almost as if they're a duality album. They're basically mirroring each other, and that if you look at Cowboy Carter, she's doing more singing, and there's more singing on the album than the actual dancing. But the fact that she made it work and came out with a tour for that album shows how great Beyonce actually is. Like I said, the tour for the Cowboy Carter stage was an amazing stage. Like I said, it's a representation of the star that America is, and at the same time she's talking about the star that she is by representing a stage that represent not only the country that she's from, but the history lesson behind that country and the flag. It was a lot of American kind of imagery, and there's a lot of American flag imagery, which allows her to show that how big of an impact that this flag has upon her generation and her family. With Cowboy Carter closing out with the highest grossing tour for a country album, Beyonce has set herself apart yet again as one of the best selling artists of all time, not only by tour tickets but also by musically enriching the industry with culture. And not to stop there, like the mirroring of these two tours are just incredible. And I started thinking to myself too, after Beyonce do such a massive tour, where do she put all of these equipments, and where, like, it's a lot that goes into planning a tour like this. And like I said, Beyonce is one of one, and that the people that she's going to be covering for her third act, I think this tour might be, if I'm jumping the gun, if there's like 70 shows, she might gross almost 2 billion. And with Renaissance closing out and Cowboy Carter officially closing out, the only thing that this Cowboy Carter has taught me is the resilience of this woman and the impact of this woman and what she planned on doing next. She literally let the floodgates open, with the third act being called, and I'm naming it, the Rock House, my Rock House, whichever thing she's gonna be calling it. That next horse, we're gonna need to find a good name for it, because I think each horse came with a partner. With Cowboy Carter, it had Chardonnay as well as Sir Davis. With Renaissance, you had Renee, and I forgot what the other name we had for Renee, but the Echoville of America is something that is going to be the amalgamation of all the three acts, which will be count as the fourth act, which is the visuals. And I'm also thinking that the fifth part of this, like the fifth part of the fourth act, is going to be like a DC reunion after the 3-act trilogy. But like I said, this was an amazing experience. We are the visuals, as Beyonce say. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and this is the finale. Thank you so much. Shout out, look out.